Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a figure who just looms so large in culture, someone truly monumental.
Absolutely. An artist who kind of defies easy labels.
Exactly. We're talking about Freddie Mercury, his voice, his stage presence. It's overwhelming just thinking about the sheer amount of material out there on him.
It really is. You look through the biographies, the music analysis, the interviews, he was somehow, the most public and the most private person in rock history all at once.
That's the core of it, isn't it? So our mission today in this deep dive is to try and cut through some of that noise.
Right. We want to dig into the really surprising details. His origins, which are fascinating, the depth of his actual artistry beyond just the hits.
The complexity around his private life, which he guarded so fiercely.
Exactly. And the scale of his legacy. It's just phenomenal. And the sources we've looked at really bear that out.
And we have to keep that central contradiction in mind, what we might call the Freddie paradox.
The flamboyant showman versus the shy man behind the curtain.
How could this godlike figure commanding huge stadiums be the same person as Farrokh Bulsara, this quiet guy who hated interviews?
Understanding that tension is, I think, key to understanding Queen and him.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning, because his origins are, well, way more global than many people realize. He wasn't born in Britain.
No, not at all. He was born Farrokh Bulsara, 5th of September, 1946, in Stone Town. That was in the Sultanate of Zanzibar, off the coast of East Africa, a British protectorate back then.
And his family background adds another layer, Parsi Indian, right?
That's right. His parents, Bomi and Jair Bulsara, were Parsis. Their roots were in Gujarat, in India. They followed the Zoroastrian faith.
Which is an ancient religion, quite distinct.
Very distinct. And it often meant they were a specific minority group, even within the wider Indian community. His dad worked for the British Colonial Office as a cashier, so they had a certain status. But Farrokh was, from day one, a child of multiple cultures, East African, Indian, British.
Does that Parsi background, that specific identity, come through in the source material as significant? Maybe shaping his later persona?
I think it absolutely does. Parsi communities, especially those abroad, often kept quite close-knit, valuing education tradition, gave him a sense of history. Definitely. But maybe also that feeling of being a bit of an outsider.
An observer.
Yeah, sort of observing the culture around him rather than being fully immersed. And you could argue that feeling, that slight detachment, is what fueled the need to create this completely new, powerful identity later on. Freddie Mercury.
And that sense of separation, maybe it was reinforced when he was sent away to school at quite a young age, wasn't it?
8 years old. He went to St. Peter's, which was a boarding school for boys, very British style, in Panchgani, near Bombay, now Mumbai, in India.
So this is mid-50s to early 60s, a long way from home.
A really formative time. And this is where Farrokh starts calling himself Freddie, consistently.
So the name change starts early, like a first draft of the persona.
Exactly, trying it out. And musically, things started happening there too. He'd have piano lessons from age 7, and at St. Peter's, he formed a band called the Hectics.
Yeah, the Hectics. Love it. What did they play?
Covers, mostly. Early rock and roll stuff. Little Richard, Cliff Richard. So his rock roots are actually there, in India.
Not suburban London, which is what most people probably assume.
Right. And there's a lovely little detail from this time, his stamp collection. His dad collected stamps, and Freddie picked it up between ages 9 and 12. Lots of Commonwealth stamps.
And that collection still exists.
It does. It's actually on display at the Postal Museum in London now. A direct link back to this quiet kid who, would later command the world stage.
That quiet life, though, it got completely upended in 1964.
Yeah, a sudden and pretty traumatic shift. The family had to flee Zanzibar.
Because of the Zanzibar Revolution.
Exactly. It was incredibly violent, aimed against the Sultan and the Arab-dominated government, but thousands of ethnic Arabs and Indians were killed, so they had to get out.
Wow. So they essentially arrived in England as refugees, or forced migrants at least.
Pretty much. They ended up in Middlesex, near London, in Feltham initially.
Yeah.
Imagine that, being a teenager, suddenly ripped from your home, dealing with that kind of violence and upheaval, and landing in suburban England.
That context, fleeing political violence, it adds another dimension to his later drive, doesn't it? That need to carve out a space, to be seen, maybe.
It really does. It gives his ambition a real weight. And he quickly focused on his art in England, studied graphic art and design, first at Isleworth Polytechnic, then got his diploma from Ealing Art College in 1969.
Ealing, famous art school. And those skills came in handy.
Definitely. Not just for designing things later, but initially, he and Roger Taylor had a stall selling secondhand clothes in Kensington Market. Very bohemian. But yeah, those design skills were crucial for the band's image.
Which brings us to Queen. By 1970, he connects with Brian May and Roger Taylor. Their band was called Smile First.
That's right. He joined Smile, brought in John Deacon later, and then pushed to rename the band.
And the name Queen was all him. A very deliberate choice.
Totally deliberate. He said it was a very regal, obviously, and it sounds splendid. He knew about the gay connotations too, called it just one facet, but the main thing was grandeur. It was provocative.
And around this time, he legally changes his name too, from Farrokh Bulsara to Freddie Mercury.
Yes. The final step in the transformation. He took the surname Mercury from a line he wrote in an early song called My Fairy King, Mother Mercury, look what they've done to me. Freck was gone. Freddie was here.
And he didn't just name the band, he designed their logo, the famous Queen crest.
Which is another masterpiece of his visual thinking. It's like his own personal coat of arms for the band.
It pulls together symbols for all the members.
Exactly. It combines their zodiac signs. You've got 2 lions for John Deacon and Roger Taylor, they're both Leos. A crab for Brian May, who's a Cancer.
And for himself, Virgo.
2 fairies representing Virgo, yes. All arranged around a big letter Q with a crown inside it.
And towering over it all
is this massive phoenix, symbolizing rebirth, rising from the ashes, immortality.
It's perfect, isn't it? The immigrant kid reinventing himself, designing his own royalty.
It absolutely encapsulates that transformation. Farrokh Bulsara to Freddie Mercury. He made sure the visual identity was as powerful as the music they were about to create.
So the visual identity was set. Let's pivot to the artistry, because the foundation of everything was that voice. It's just legendary.
It really is. And consistently ranked, like you said, not just as a great rock singer, but one of the greatest vocalists, full stop.
And the sources back that up with hard facts, right? The range.
Yeah. His speaking voice was actually a baritone, which gives him that lovely warmth when you hear him talk in interviews, but he sang mostly in the tenor range.
And the documented range is, what was it?
Incredible 4 octaves, recorded from a bass low F, that's F2, all the way up to a soprano high F, F6. That kind of spread is almost unheard of in rock music.
It's phenomenal. Now, what about the quality? There's always that story about his teeth. Did he really think they helped his voice?
He absolutely did believe that, yes.
Yeah.
He was born with 4 extra incisors, supernumerary teeth, which caused that famous overbite.
Right, you couldn't miss it.
And he personally felt those extra teeth gave him more room in his mouth, contributing to his range and that unique resonance. He genuinely thought that.
And he never wanted to fix them.
No, he was famously afraid that any dental surgery might damage his voice. So he kept them. It became part of his iconic look, but he thought it was key to his sound too.
But it wasn't just about the range or the look, it was the technique. Even classical singers were impressed.
Absolutely. Look at his collaboration with the Spanish opera soprano Montserrat Caballé. She came from the most rigorous vocal tradition imaginable.
And she was blown away.
Totally. She said something really insightful. The difference between Freddie and almost all the other rock stars was that he was selling the voice, meaning it wasn't just shouting or raw emotion, it was real technique.
She pinpointed specifics, didn't she?
Yeah, she praised his rhythm, his vocal placement, how he could just glide between different parts of his voice so smoothly. True virtuosity.
And others in rock agreed.
Oh, definitely. Roger Daltrey from the Hughes String flat out called him the best virtuoso rock and roll singer of all time. High praise from a peer like that. He could just switch styles on a dime.
And science actually weighed in on this too. There was that study a few years back.
Yes, in 2016. It's fascinating. Researchers analyzed recordings of his voice. They found a couple of really distinct things.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, his vibrato, that waver in the note, was significantly faster than classically trained singers. It gave his voice a different kind of energy, a shimmer.
Interesting. And the other thing?
This is pretty cool, technically. They found evidence he used subharmonics. It's something you sometimes hear in Kuvan throat singing, where the vocal folds vibrate in a way that creates tones below the main note.
Wow. So faster vibrato and these subharmonics.
Yeah, they think those 2 things were key components of that distinctive power and texture in his voice.
Yeah.
That real emotional grip it had.
Beyond the incredible voice, though, he was a hugely important songwriter. Inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, wasn't he?
He was in 2003, and rightly so. I mean, think about Queen's greatest hits. How many of those huge anthems did he write?
A lot of them. Bohemian Rhapsody, Killer Queen, We Are the Champions.
10 out of the 17 tracks on that first collection is a massive contribution. But what's really striking is his range as a writer. He refused to be pigeonholed.
He brought in all sorts of styles.
Everything. Rockabilly, heavy metal, gospel, disco, bits of opera. He explicitly said he wanted to incorporate all of those things. He didn't want to repeat himself.
Which is amazing considering how he actually composed. He wasn't formally trained in reading music, was he?
That's the crazy part. He composed most of his major hits, these incredibly complex songs, on the piano. But he admitted he could barely read music. It was all intuition, feel, innate talent.
Let's take those two extremes you mentioned earlier, Bohemian Rhapsody and Crazy Little Thing Called Love, worlds apart.
Absolutely perfect examples. Bohemian Rhapsody is just a compositional universe in itself. It doesn't follow a standard verse-chorus structure. It's got multiple sections, dozens of chords, key changes. It's like a mini opera.
Something you'd expect from someone deeply trained in theory.
Exactly. And then you have Crazy Little Thing Called Love. He supposedly wrote it in the bath in about 10 minutes.
Oh.
That's the story. And he wrote it on guitar, which he barely played. It's super simple, just a few chords, a total homage to Elvis and early rockabilly.
And yet both are undeniably Queen, undeniably Freddie.
That's the genius. He could do the epic, sprawling complexity and the tight, perfect pop song. Master of both.
Okay, so we've got the voice, the songwriting. Now let's talk about the phenomenon. Freddie the showman. This is where that paradox we talked about just explodes onto the stage.
It really is. The transformation from that shy guy to the figure on stage is just breathtaking. He turned concerts into these huge interactive events.
Pure theater.
Absolutely. Designed for audience participation. David Bowie, who knew a thing or two about theatrical rock, said that Freddie took it further than the rest. He took it over the edge.
And Brian May said he had that unique ability to connect even in massive stadiums.
Yeah, he could somehow make the last person at the back of the furthest stand feel that he was connected. It wasn't just performing at people, it was creating this shared energy.
And part of that connection came through his props, especially that iconic microphone stand.
The bottomless mic stand. It became his signature.
And the story is that it started as an accident.
That's how it goes, yeah.
Yeah.
Early gig, the mic stand snaps off its heavy bass. Instead of getting a new one, he just kept using the top part.
And realized its potential.
Instantly. He saw it gave him this freedom, this prop to gesture with, to point, to command the stage. He just incorporated the mistake into the act. Brilliant improvisation. The mark of a true showman.
If there's one performance that crystallizes that showmanship, it has to be Live Aid in 1985.
Oh, without a doubt. That 20 minutes is legendary. It's consistently voted the greatest live performance in rock history.
And for good reason. The energy.
Just off the charts. The call and response with the crowd during Radio Gaga, the sheer emotion of "We are the champions."
Yeah.
It was spine-tingling.
And that note, the note heard round the world.
That incredible sustained note during the cappella part of Bohemian Rhapsody, it was just proof he was operating on another level that day.
Yeah.
Pure power and control.
And this huge scale wasn't accidental. He famously said, "We're the Cecil B. DeMille of rock and roll."
Always wanted to do things bigger and better.
Yeah.
That ambition drove them to break new ground globally.
They were pioneers in stadium rock in places like South America, right?
Absolutely. They played massive stadiums there in the early 80s, like Morumbi in Sao Paulo in 81, one of the first huge Western bands to do that. Broke attendance records.
And they even played behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, Budapest, Hungary in 1986. Around 80,000 people. That was a huge cultural event for Eastern Europe at the time. It was more than just a concert.
And then his final performance with Queen. Knebworth Park, August 86. It sounds like it was staged almost like a farewell.
It really feels like it in retrospect.
Yeah.
Huge crowd, maybe up to 200,000. Brian May said, Freddie told him about a week before, "I'm not going to be doing this forever. This is probably the last time."
Wow.
And then for the encore, he came out wearing this regal robe, red and white velvet, holding a golden crown up high.
Like a king abdicating.
Exactly. It's this incredibly powerful theatrical image. The ultimate showman taking his final bow with the band. Just stunning self-aware theater.
Let's touch on Freddie as an instrumentalist, because people mainly think of the voice and the front man, but he was a trained musician.
He was. He had that formal piano training as a kid up to about age 9. And Brian May always said he had a wonderful touch on the piano. Real feel.
But he seemed to step back from playing it live so much later on. Why was that? Was it a conscious decision?
It seems so. Brian May suggested Freddie started using keyboard players more in the early 80s because he felt, well, kind of trapped behind the piano.
He wanted to be free to roam the stage.
Exactly. He wanted to walk around
So,
and entertain the audience. The showman persona took priority over sitting at the keyboard. That shy kid needed the freedom to become the extrovert Freddie Mercury on stage.
Interesting trade-off. But he still used instruments for composing, even ones he wasn't expert on, like the guitar.
Yeah, that versatility again. Songs like Ogre Battle and definitely Crazy Little Thing Called Love were written on guitar.
Even though he said he could barely play it.
Right. He called his skills rudimentary. But for Crazy Little Thing, he actually played rhythm guitar on the recording and often live, too. He just used whatever tool got the song out of his head.
Now, his solo ventures, they often get a bit overshadowed by Queen, but they were important for him, weren't they? A different creative outlet.
Definitely. He started quite early, actually. Back in 1972, he did a couple of tracks under the name Larry Lyrics.
Larry Lyrics. Seriously.
Yep. A clear play on Gary Glitter and the glam rock fabric. Didn't really take off. But then in 1984, he had a proper hit with Love Kills.
That was for a soundtrack, right?
Yeah, the soundtrack for Giorgio Moroder's restoration of the film Metropolis. It was a UK top 10 hit. Quite electronic, different from Queen.
And then came the full solo albums.
Mr. Bad Guy in 1985. That was his big pop statement. Very dance and disco influenced. It had Living on My Own on it.
Which became a huge hit later, posthumously.
Massive #1 in the UK in '93 after a remix. Shows the strength of the melody. And then his second solo project was completely different again.
The Barcelona album with Montserrat Caballé.
Just remarkable. That 1988 collaboration, high opera meets pop drama, it was daring. And the title track became the anthem for the '92 Barcelona Olympics.
We also have to mention the Michael Jackson collaboration that never quite happened.
Ah, yes, the great What If. They worked together between '81 and '83, recorded a few tracks like State of Shock and There Must Be More to Life Than This.
But nothing came out at the time. Why not?
The stories suggest, well, creative differences and maybe lifestyle clashes. Apparently, Jackson brought his pet llama into the recording studio.
His llama.
His llama. Freddie apparently found that a bit much, and maybe found Jackson becoming a bit reclusive, so it just fizzled out.
Two massive stars, derailed by a llama. Incredible.
Rock and roll history is weird. Freddie put his version of There Must Be More to Life Than This on Mr. Bad Guy, and Queen eventually released a version featuring both of them much later on a compilation.
Okay, so that's the public Freddie, the artist, the showman, but the private world. That was something else entirely. Fiercely guarded. He said it himself, didn't he? When I'm performing, I'm an extrovert, yet inside, I'm a completely different man.
That quote sums it up perfectly. And the best way to understand that private side is through his key relationships. They were built on incredible trust, often quite unconventional.
And the most significant relationship, arguably, throughout his whole adult life was with Mary Austin.
Without a doubt. They met in '69, before Queen really took off. They were a couple from 1970 until about 1976. A really intense romantic relationship.
And the relationship changed but didn't end when he came out to her.
Exactly. That's a pivotal moment. When he told her he thought he was bisexual, the story goes that she said, "No, Freddie, I think you're gay." The romance ended, but the bond deepened incredibly.
He wanted her to stay close, physically close, too.
Yes, he bought her a flat near his own place in Kensington when he moved out. He couldn't imagine life without her nearby.
And the things he said about her, really powerful.
Absolutely unequivocal. In one interview in '85, he called her his only true friend and referred to her as his common-law wife.
Common-law wife, even after they'd split romantically and he was with men.
Yes. He said, all my lovers asked me why they couldn't replace Mary, but it's simply impossible. She remained his anchor, his main confidant.
And she chose his final home, Garden Lodge.
She found it for him, that beautiful Georgian mansion in Kensington. And crucially, he left it to her in his will. Along with his future recording royalties, he told her, "You would have been my wife and it would have been yours anyway." It just shows her central place in his life.
He did have other significant long-term partners later on, particularly men. His time in Munich was quite intense.
It was. From around 1979 to 1985, he spent a lot of time there exploring the gay scene. He had a serious relationship with the German restaurateur Winfried Kirchberger, or Winnie.
He even acknowledged him publicly.
In a way. He thanked Winnie for board and lodging in the liner notes of Mr. Bad Guy. And apparently he wore a silver wedding band Winnie gave him for a while. So a significant relationship.
But the partner who was with him until the very end was Jim Hutton.
Yes, Jim Hutton, an Irish hairdresser. Their relationship started around 1985 and lasted until Freddie's death in 1991.
And Freddie considered him his husband.
He referred to Jim as his husband, yeah. He said the relationship brought him great solace. And Jim's devotion during Freddie's illness was incredible.
Jim was HIV positive too, wasn't he?
He found out in 1990. He lived with Freddie for those last 6 years, nursed him through his illness, was there when he died. And the detail about Freddie being cremated, wearing the gold wedding band Jim gave him, it's incredibly moving. It speaks volumes.
Now, we need to address something more recent and quite controversial that came up in the source material, this claim about an alleged daughter.
Right, this needs careful handling. A biography published around 2025 made the claim that Freddie fathered a daughter, known only as B, back in 1976 after an affair. The book suggested it was a closely guarded secret within his inner circle.
But the people closest to him reacted with strong skepticism. We need to make that clear for the listener.
Absolutely crucial. The sources show immediate pushback. Brian May's wife, Anita Dobson, expressed strong disbelief, saying it seemed completely out of character.
And Mary Austin, the person he trusted most.
Mary Austin's reaction is probably the most telling. She told the Sunday Times it would be astonishing if Freddie had a child she knew nothing about. She pointed out how he loved sharing joyful secrets, and she just couldn't imagine him keeping something like that hidden, especially from her.
And the timing, 1976, is right around when his relationship with Had is ending.
Exactly. The timeline makes the secrecy element seem highly improbable to those who knew him best. So it's a claim that's out there, but met with significant doubt from key figures.
Let's go back to his personality. That stark contrast, the shy private man versus the explosive performer. How did that play out in his views on, say, politics or activism?
He was very, very reluctant to be political. He actively avoided using his fame that way.
He drew a line between himself and someone like John Lennon.
Explicitly. In an interview, he basically said rock stars shouldn't try to change the world, leave that to the politicians. He felt he didn't have the intellect or the magic for that kind of preaching, as he put it, just mere talent.
So politics was irrelevant to the showman.
That seemed to be his view. His longtime assistant claimed Freddie leaned conservative privately, mainly because he disliked the high taxes done to the 70s labor government. But his core belief, apparently, was that political opinions were strictly relevant only to the individual.
For someone who came from such a politically charged background fleeing Zanzibar, that commitment to keeping politics private is really striking.
It is. It runs counter to that image of the rock star activist. His priority was privacy.
Except perhaps when it came to his cats.
The cats. You absolutely cannot talk about Freddie Mercury without the cats. He adored them.
How many did he have over the years?
At least 10 that we know of. Famous names like Tom, Jerry, Oscar, Tiffany, Romeo, Delilah. Most were rescue cats from the Blue Cross charity.
He really treated them like royalty.
Oh, completely. He saw them as important as humans.
Yeah.
There are stories of him calling home while on tour just to talk to them on the phone.
Holding the receiver up so they could hear his voice.
Exactly. And he wrote a song, Delilah, for his favorite cat, a big tortoiseshell.
And that dedication on the Mr. Bad Guy album?
It's legendary.
Yeah.
This album is dedicated to my cat, Jerry, also Tom, Oscar, and Tiffany, and all the cat lovers across the universe. Screw everybody else. Says it all, really.
Yeah. One last point about his private world connections. His friendship with the DJ Kenny Everett was crucial for Queen's breakthrough, wasn't it? Especially with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Absolutely vital. They became friends in '74. When Freddie gave Kenny an early tape of Bohemian Rhapsody in '75, all 6 minutes of it, Kenny instantly knew it was a hit.
But radio stations wouldn't play something that long back then.
No way. Capitol Radio, where Kenny worked, had rules against it. But Kenny just ignored them. He played snippets, teased it, then played the whole thing over and over again.
How many times?
Apparently 14 times in one weekend. The station's switchboard lit up like crazy, people demanding to hear it.
So that public demand, fueled by his friend breaking the rules, forced the record label's hand.
Pretty much. He created such a buzz they had to release it. A testament to friendship bypassing the industry gatekeepers.
Which leads us, sadly, to the final chapter, his illness and death. The timeline suggests he knew or suspected much earlier than the public announcement. That privacy shield held strong.
It really did. Biographers point to possible symptoms maybe as early as 1982. There's a story he saw a doctor in New York about a lesion on his tongue then. But the formal diagnosis of AIDS, according to Jim Hutton, was late April 1987.
And he kept that diagnosis intensely private, even from the band for a while.
For 2 years. He only told his Queen bandmates in May 1989. He didn't tell the public until the day before he died.
The press speculation in those final years must have been unbearable. His appearance changed. Queen stopped touring.
It was relentless and often cruel. Constant hounding, invasive photos, but he and his inner circle just consistently denied everything, trying to protect that space around him. Privacy was paramount, even facing death.
Yet, despite being so ill, his drive to create was astonishing in those last years.
It's truly remarkable. He was determined to keep recording. They set up in Montreux, Switzerland, working on what became the Made in Heaven album.
But his health was clearly failing.
Severely. Brian May said sometimes Freddie could only manage an hour or two in the studio. He'd sing a few lines, maybe a verse, then need to rest. But he kept pushing them. Write me more. Write me stuff. I want to just sing this. When I'm gone, you can finish it off.
Incredible determination. The atmosphere wasn't morbid then.
Apparently not. Reports suggest he kept it quite light, focused on the work, despite the obvious pain he must have been in.
There's that heartbreaking story about recording his very last vocal for the song Mother Love.
Yeah, it's one of the most poignant moments. He'd sung most of the song, powerful stuff, got through the second to last verse. Then he just said he wasn't feeling great, needed a break.
And he said,
I will finish it when I go back next time. But he never made it back to the studio. He left, and that was it.
So Brian May sang the final verse on the record.
Brian May recorded the last verse later. So it's the only Queen song where Freddie's lead vocal is technically unfinished. He finished his work with Queen around June 1991 and then just retired to Garden Lodge.
And the public announcement finally came just hours before his death.
Just 24 hours before. On November 22nd, 1991, he called his manager, Jim Beach, asked him to release a statement confirming he had AIDS. He explained he'd kept it private to protect others and maintain his dignity.
And he died the next day.
The evening of November 24th, 1991. From bronchial pneumonia, which was a complication of AIDS, he was only 45.
His death was such a shockwave. It felt like a real turning point in public awareness of AIDS. His legacy is just immense.
Absolutely monumental. He was the first truly global rock superstar to die from AIDS complications. That fact alone forced the world to pay attention in a way it hadn't before.
And it led directly to tangible action, the Mercury Phoenix dress.
Exactly. Set up by the remaining members of Queen and their manager to fight AIDS worldwide. It's raised millions. And of course, the Freddie Mercury tribute concert in 1992.
That concert was huge, broadcast everywhere.
To an estimated audience of 1 billion people. Think about that. 1 billion people watching this massive concert, raising awareness about AIDS, all because of Freddie. The impact was immeasurable, far beyond just music.
His death also led to a huge resurgence in Queen's popularity, especially in America.
Massively. Their sales shot up in '92, partly helped by the movie Wayne's World using Bohemian Rhapsody, but mainly because people suddenly grasped the scale of the loss, the genius.
So a lot of their U.S. success actually came after he died.
Yeah, it's estimated about half their total U.S. album sales happened after 1991. And his songs just endure. Bohemian Rhapsody, We Are the Champions, constantly topping greatest song polls, Grammy Hall of Fame. They're embedded in the culture.
And the physical tributes to him are amazing too, not just statues, but space.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Very fitting for Freddie Mercury. There's the famous statue in Montreux, overlooking Lake Geneva, where he recorded so much. But yeah, an asteroid was named after him, 17473 Freddie Mercury, on what would have been his 70th birthday.
An asteroid. What else?
A crater on the planet Mercury is named Bulsara, after his birth name, and scientists have named species after him too. A genus of frog in India is Mercurana, and there's a damselfly species called Heterogrion Freddie Mercury.
A frog and a damselfly. That's incredible. It shows how far his influence reached.
It really does. From planets to pond life.
And finally, that huge auction of his belongings in 2023, organized by Mary Austin. It gave a real glimpse into his private world.
A staggering event.
Yeah.
Nearly 1,500 items from Garden Lodge. It raised almost $40 million. But more than the money, it was the connection to him.
What were some of the standout items?
The Yamaha Baby Grand piano he used to compose Bohemian Rhapsody and other hits went for $1.7 million. Just think the history in that instrument.
Wow. And the lyrics.
The handwritten lyrics for Bohemian Rhapsody, 9 pages of them sold for $1.38 million. Even the green wooden door to Garden Lodge, covered in messages left by fans over the years, went for over £400,000.
That door says so much about the devotion he inspired, right on the threshold of his private sanctuary.
Exactly. It was the public auction of the ultimate private life.
So wrapping this up, what we've really charted is this incredible journey. Farrokh Bulsara, the shy boy from Zanzibar, Parsi heritage, displaced by revolution.
Who then meticulously crafts this larger-than-life persona, Freddie Mercury. blending his background with British rock theatricality to become this absolute global icon.
While somehow keeping those two identities separate, guarded right until the end, a master of performance but also of privacy.
That's the core paradox, the showman and the solitary man.
So here's a final thought, something for you, the listener, to think about after everything we've discussed.
Given how fiercely Freddie Mercury protected his privacy, how much he insisted politics were personal, not for the stage. Did his death, singular and unavoidable as it was, ultimately have a greater impact on global AIDS awareness, maybe even on LGBTQ visibility, than a whole lifetime of calculated activism might have achieved?
A really powerful question to end on. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.